go over the worksheet on costs, the firm's costs. And there's just some basic, it's important to get this chapter because a lot of the things you're going to do after the second midterm are going to be related to this. So we saw how consumers make their choice of how much to consume. And now here we're going to analyze the cost structure of the firm because that is going to help us figure out how firms make their production decision, right? How much to produce of the good and at different prices. So first we're going to just talk about the basics, right? We have total revenue and total cost. Okay? Total revenue is just you take the price of the good, multiply by the quantity, you get total revenue. For costs, it's a bit more complicated than that. We have two types of costs. We have fixed costs, which is an amount of money you have to pay no matter how much you produce. Even if you produce nothing, you would still have to pay the fixed cost. Right? Think of it as rent. Okay? You pay the rent in the beginning of the month for the next month. So within that month, even if you move out of the apartment, you would still have to pay the cost. Right? So it's fixed and it's gonna be there no matter how much you decide to produce. It is also important to note that this is only true in the short term. Okay? So in the long run, every cost is a variable cost. Okay? So in the long run, you can leave the apartment, or if you have a piece of equipment, right, that you're renting, you might still have to pay the rent for the next year or the next month, but in the long run you can get rid of it, right? Get out of the contract or sell the machine, whatever that might be. Okay, so in the long run, if you don't produce anything, you don't pay anything. So fixed costs become variable. Then we have the other one, variable cost, which does depend on the quantity produced, and it's increasing when you produce more. Right? And this is human capital, any other input that goes into the production of the goods. And to produce more, you need to pay more. To produce more goods, you need to hire more people. The salaries of those people would be variable costs. Yeah.
In long run, the fixed cost is a variable cost?
Yes, because you can change stuff in the long run. In the short term, you might be stuck in a situation where you have to pay something, no matter even if you shut down the factory, you still have to pay the rent for the next month because or you're in a contract, right? And you cannot get out of it. But in the long run, the contract is going to expire, or you can get out of the situation. And if you don't want to produce anything, then you just close the factory and it doesn't exist anymore, right? So you don't pay anything. Okay, so fixed costs do not vary with the quantity produced. All right, so then we have the different types of costs in terms of whether you actually pay money out of pocket for them, or they're what we call implicit cost. Implicit cost is an opportunity cost. So what do you have to forego in order to produce the good or to start a business? Explicit costs are the ones that your accountant is going to put in your income statement. Okay? So when you pay salaries, when you buy supplies, when you pay interest on money you have borrowed, right? Those are all explicit costs, are also called accounting costs. However, if you're considering starting a business and you're currently working for a firm, right, you get a salary from that. In order to start your own business, you need to quit, so you're going to forego that salary. So you're going to lose it in a way. That's your opportunity cost of starting the business. That's also a valid cost that you need to account for, right? But it's not, your accountant is not going to put down, what you could have earned outside of this business. So those are the economic costs, and what we should be concerned about is economic profit. Profit we know is total revenue minus total costs. Right? But accounting profit is only going to account for the explicit costs, and economic profit is going to account for both the explicit and the implicit costs. Right? So both the opportunity cost and what comes out of your pocket is going to be included in the economic profit, and that's the relevant one we should look at. Right? All right, so when we talk about revenue and costs, all of those have an average form, right? So when you basically divide them by the quantity, you get the average total revenue, you get the average total cost, average variable cost, and average fixed costs. And we also have what is called, well, marginal means additional, right? Marginal cost would be the cost that each additional unit of production is adding to your total cost. Right? So if I currently produce 10 units of a good, I have a certain amount of costs. If I decide to produce the 11th one, how would my total cost change? That's the marginal cost of a good. And we also have the same idea for marginal product. This is the productivity of the inputs that you use in the production of the good. So if I currently employ 5 people, all right, hiring the 6th person is going to increase my production. The change in that the quantity produced is my marginal product of that 6th person. And there's a law in economics that the marginal product is decreasing. So as you keep adding people, they're going to add less and less to the production, to the total output that you make. Okay, so I think of it as working in a closed space, and you have one person doing the job and they're doing well, but the second person is going to increase the production because there's a lot of things to do. But then as you keep adding people, they start getting in each other's way, right? So as more and more people start working in that closed space, they increase output less and less, right? Okay, and as I said, all of those costs have an average form. Basically, total cost is average total cost is total cost divided by total quantity, right? And that's the same for variable and fixed. And this is a picture that you should get familiar with because you're going to look at it a lot for the rest of the semester. So the easiest thing here is the fixed cost. We know fixed cost. Yeah, you have a question?
For average total cost is 2 different equations.
Sorry?
Average total cost is 2 different equations.
In the sense of, what do you mean?
It says implicit.
Well, it's the same thing, right? We know the total cost is the sum of variable cost and fixed cost. Okay, so that's an equation that holds true. If I divide both sides by the same number, which is Q, right? The quantity, that's still gonna be true. So total cost divided by Q equals variable divided by Q equals fixed divided by Q. But this is what we call average total cost, and average variable cost, and average fixed cost. Right? So the sum of average variable and average fixed is average total. Alright, so we see here that average fixed cost decreases as quantity goes up, and this is logical because the fixed cost is going to be the same no matter how much you produce. Alright, if you produce 1 unit of the good, you're going to pay $100. If you produce 100 units of the good, you're still going to pay $100 in fixed costs. Right? So when you divide by a larger number, it decreases as quantity goes up. What else is always going to be true? We have average variable cost and average total cost, and the marginal cost of each quantity is going to intersect those two exactly at their minimum. Right? In other words, when average variable is higher than marginal cost, okay, it's decreasing. And when marginal is higher than average variable, it's increasing. So they intersect right at the minimum of that curve. And the same is true for total cost. A way to think of this logically is, for example, if you have a class and they have tests and they got an average of 80 on the test, okay? Another person takes the test and makes a 60. What's going to happen with the average? It goes down, right? That's what's happening here. The other person that comes in and takes the test is a marginal guy, right? So it's the marginal part of it. So if the average was 80, okay, and that guy got a 60, which is below 80, right? The average is going to go down. So that's why average total cost is decreasing as when marginal cost is less than it. Okay? And then there's a guy comes in and gets a 90, and that means that they're in this region, right? So their marginal contribution is higher, and then the average is also going to increase because of that. Right? Does that make sense? All right, guys. What is it? So in the long run, you need to, as I said, fixed costs are going to be variable. There's no fixed costs anymore. Everything can vary. We are going to have different short-run average total costs, right? So imagine these are just different factory sizes. Or this short-run cost curve is the cost curve if you have one factory. This is where you have 2 factories, 3 factories, and 4 factories. And all those things are hard to change in the short run, right? Because it takes time to build a factory or to close one. But in the long run, you can pick whatever you want, right? And because coming from the short-run average total cost curve, we can construct the long-run average total cost. Okay? And the goal of the firm is to operate at the minimum of that. We're gonna have basically 3 different scenarios when it comes to long-run average total cost. We can have when the total cost is decreasing, right? Average total cost is decreasing. We have what is called economies of scale. Then we have a region where it might be constant, and that's constant returns to scale. And finally, when with quantity our average total cost starts increasing, we call this diseconomies of scale.
What does it mean?
Well, economies of scale means that, let's say you have a factory and it's staying idle, part of it, right? You're not utilizing the resources, you have them there, but you're not utilizing them. So as you produce more and more, your costs are gonna go down. Right? Your average total cost is gonna go down because there's benefit in producing more. And the opposite is gonna be true for diseconomies of scale. Alright, so we have some conceptual questions first. These are easy. Economists assume that the goal of the firm is to maximize total what? Economic profits, right? Total revenue is price times quantity. Profit is defined as total revenue minus, total revenue minus total cost. All right, these are just definitions. Okay. The marginal cost curve intersects the average total cost curve at the minimum point of the average total cost curve. Is that true or false?
Sure.
Is it true that the marginal cost curve intersects the total cost curve at the minimum point? Not the average total, the total.
Oh. No, the total no.
The total, no, right? There's no minimum there. Good. Right. Just illustrating that, you need to make sure you make a distinction between the average form of a cost and the total form of a cost, right? What we talk about. In the short run, if a firm produces nothing, total costs are 0. True or false?
No, because there's a still fixed cost.
Exactly. In the short run, that's true. All right. The things that must be foregone to acquire a good, what do we call those things? Opportunity costs. Total revenue minus only explicit costs is called accounting profit. And now we see an illustration of what that is. Gwen has decided to start her own photography studio. To purchase the necessary equipment, she withdrew $2,000 from her savings account, which was earning 3%. She also borrowed $4,000 from the bank at an interest rate of 7%. What is Gwen's annual opportunity cost of the financial capital that has been invested in the business? Okay. So we know opportunity cost means implicit costs, right? So what do you think it is? Video. Right.
Isn't it 60? No.
Yeah. Why though?
So 3% of 2,000, she could have earned.
She could have earned on the money, exactly. Right. So this is the idea here. She could have earned 3% on those 2,000, but she's not, because she's decided to take them out and invest them in the business. So the 3% of 2,000, which is 60, is an opportunity cost for her. Like it's an implicit cost. What about the other one? What about borrowing 4,000 and paying 7 on it? Is that an implicit or an explicit cost?
Explicit.
Right, because your accountant is going to put that in the income statement, right? This is an expense, right? What about the 4,000 itself? Is it an expense? Is that going to, when the firm borrows money, right, the amount of money that they borrow, is that a cost? No, right? So just in the interest on that money is the cost, because they're going to use the 4,000 to pay for, salaries or something. So they're going to be in there somehow, but the capital itself doesn't enter the cost equation. Alright, another example. Ellie has been working for an engineering firm. She was earning an annual salary of 80,000. Decided to open her own engineering business. Okay? Annual, so what is that 80,000 going to be? Opportunity cost, right? Her annual expenses will include 15,000 for office rent. Is that explicit or implicit? Explicit, exactly. 3,000 for equipment. Right. 1,000 for supplies, 1,200 for utilities, 35,000 salary. Those are explicit, right? She will cover her startup expenses by cashing in a 20,000 certificate of deposit on which she was earning an annual interest of 500. By the time this money is spent, she will have enough revenue for her new business to cover expenses. Okay. So questions is now what is accounting and what is economic costs? What would be the accounting cost here? We said this is opportunity, so it's not accounting.
Minus all its expenses. 15,
Right, so it's
3,000.
15, 18, 19, 2,200, 55,200. Anything else?
Not for accounting.
Do we agree? Alright, good. 55,200 is her accounting cost. Question?
So our expenses for business are the accounting costs?
Yes. Alright. What about economic costs?
Isn't it minus that 500?
Okay, so what is it then?
It was 55, now it's 47?
No, it's 500 or 5,000.
500. It's 50 for...
It's not
Seven.
minus though, right?
Ah,
We're looking at costs. We're adding costs together.
Oh, yeah. So it's plus. Hold on.
Why is it a plus?
We're asking what the
Sure.
cost is.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Alright.
Yeah.
So we started with 55,200 because that's the explicit cost. They are also going there.
Mhm.
Then you said we have 500 extra because this is the cost, the foregone interest on the capital that she uses. Alright. Anything else? The salary, right? The 80,000 as well. So we're at 135,700. Anything else? Yeah, sure, that's it. Okay, good. Okay, so now we have a nice table here. We're gonna fill in the blanks. Alright, so now we know that total cost is the sum of variable and fixed. We know that the average is just taking the total and dividing by the quantity. We also know marginal cost, which is the change in total as you increase output. Alright? Given that information, we will be able to fill in all the blanks here. So we're given at each quantity the different costs. So at a quantity of 0, what is our variable cost?
0.
0. Okay. So total cost is 50. Why? Fixed cost. So we know fixed cost is 50. Alright? Alright. Actually now I can, knowing fixed cost, I can fill all of those. Because average is just taking fixed and dividing by the quantity, right? So what should I put here? At a quantity of 1, what is average fixed cost? 50, just 50 divided by 1. At a quantity of 2, what is average fixed cost? 25, 50 divided by 2. By 3 is 16, 67, by 4 is 12.5, and by 5? 10. Are you all following? Okay. That was easy. Alright, so that's done. What is total cost when the quantity is what? 60. Because 1, it is fixed cost plus variable cost, and we know fixed is 50, so 50 plus 10 is 60. We also know average total is 60, and at a quantity of 1, that means total is 60. And we also know the marginal cost was 10, right? So moving from 50, the additional unit added 10 in cost, so it's 60. Alright? Alright, next one. What is the marginal cost of the second unit? 20, right? Because total increased from 60 to 80. So it's 20. What else is there? What is average variable cost here? 15. Because it's variable divided by quantity, so it's 30 divided by 2. And then average total is? What is average total cost? The quantity is 2. 40. It's either total divided by quantity, so 80 divided by 2, or you can just add those two together. Alright, so what is total in the, when the quantity is 3? How can we do it?
60. No. 50, yeah.
What is total cost when quantity is 3?
110.
110. We start with 80. We know the third unit, that's 30. Right? So it's 110. If it's 110, what is variable then? 60, right? Because fixed is 50. Alright, that line's done. What is marginal of the fourth unit? 40, because we moved from 110 to 150. What is average variable when quantity is 4? Yeah, because it's 100 divided by 4. It is also 37.5 minus 2. What is there here? Alright, so 5, what's total? Look at what we have given. 200, right? Total is the sum of variable and fixed. I know variable is 150. I know fixed is 50. Fixed was 50. Right? So it's 200. Then what is the marginal of the fifth unit? 50, right? Because total went from 150 to 200, so it's 50. And finally, what is average total here? 40. Alright? So you just have to look at the information you have given. You know the relationship between the costs. Right? That's all there is to it. Alright, so the next one we have an equation for, what is it, for total cost. It is 50 plus 1.5 times Q. So what do we know about that total cost curve? Well, it has an intercept of 50 and it's a straight line, right? It's increasing with Q always, and it's a straight line in this case. What is the total cost of producing when the firm produces 50 units of output? How can you find that? Just plug it in, right? Alright. Total cost will be 50 plus 1.5 times, and our quantity we're going to plug in, 50, which is 75, 125. Agree? What is the marginal cost of producing the 100th unit of output? Any idea how to do this?
Find the cost of 100 and 100.
Find the cost at 99, right? And the cost at 100 and subtract it. Is there an easier way to do this? Without solving anything at all. So the marginal cost is how much that unit, each additional unit, is adding to total cost. And we have a special case here.
Oh, it's 1.5.
It's 1.5, right? Here we have a linear marginal cost. Well, linear, constant marginal cost. Because we have a linear total cost. Basically, each additional unit Because this is always going to be there, right? Even if you produce 99, 50, 100, that's always going to be there. So the only difference when you add one more unit here in Q is 1.5. Right? So the marginal cost would be a straight horizontal line at 1.5 in this case. It's also, we also know that the marginal cost is the first derivative of the total cost curve. Right? And first derivative of this is just 1.5. Okay? So if you want to do it the other way, it's going to work perfectly fine. So the total cost at 99 would be 50 plus 1.5 times 99. Right? And the total cost at 100 would be 50 plus 1.5 times 100. So if I subtract this from that, that's going to cancel. All right? And here I can factor out 1.5. And then it would be 100 minus 99, which is 1. Alright? I didn't have to do this here though. What are the fixed costs facing this firm? Right? Fixed costs, we know we're going to have to pay them no matter what. And we pay them even when we produce 0. Okay? So when we produce 0, and this is 0, total cost is 50. So that's why fixed costs are 50. Alright. So I have another cost table here. We're given the average variable and the average total at different levels of production. Okay, first question is, what is the marginal cost of producing the second unit? Any ideas? What is marginal cost? We just did that. What is marginal cost by definition? Is the change in total cost, not average total cost. Alright? So we need total cost here. And then we're gonna be able to find the marginal for each additional unit. Alright? So what's total cost? Well, we know the average at each quantity. Okay? And from this formula, from average total cost equaling total cost divided by Q, if you solve for total cost, it's just average total times Q. Right? So 40 times 1, 25 times 2. So the marginal of the second, there you go. And that's why I said it's important to make the distinction between total and average for all these costs. All right, so now we have the price of the good is 35. The firm is in a competitive industry means that the firm takes that price as given. You're going to learn about this after the second exam, but that's what it means so far. What is the firm's profit? Alright, so let's start with profit. What do we know profit is? What's the formula for that?
Revenue minus expenses.
Total revenue minus total cost. Well, total revenue, I know, is the price times the quantity, right? And total cost, from there, I know it's average total cost times quantity, right? So it's minus average total cost times quantity. Now, I can factor out the Q, right? So then, profit becomes just the quantity produced times price minus average total cost at that quantity. I know the price. It's given here, it's 35, where is it? And if I know Q, I can find average total cost, or if I know average total cost, should be I can find the quantity that they're going to produce. The key here is that we know that competitive firms are going to produce at the minimum of the average total cost. I remember the total cost curve. The average looked something like this, and then we had the marginal that intersects the average total cost right at its minimum, okay? So you're going to learn this later, but we know that the firms are going to produce at the minimum of their average total cost, right? and there's going to be a certain price associated to this, a certain amount of money, right? Certain cost that's going to be associated with this. And what else? And certain quantity, right? So to find the quantity, we just look where the average total cost is minimized. Where is that? 3. And that's the average total cost. So just plug it in the equation, right? So the profit would be Q, which is 3 times 35 minus 18.33. What are the fixed costs faced by this firm? Right? Just look at the cost structure again. How can I find the fixed costs?
It's total cost minus variable cost.
Right. At each quantity. What's the easiest quantity to pick? To do that? 1. Right? So at 1, I know total cost is 40. Right? And variable cost would be 30, because it would be just 30 times 1. Right? So what is fixed then? 10. There you go. Alright, this we're gonna skip in the interest of time. You're gonna learn this after the second term. Alright, so. What is this? Alright, Kate is a florist. She can arrange 40 bouquets per day. If she's considering hiring her husband to work for her, and together both of them can arrange 35. So what is her husband's marginal product? 15, right? So by herself, so with one person you can arrange 20. Adding another person increases total output to 35. So the marginal contribution, right, the extra that second person gives you, is the difference between the two, which is 15. Alright, so L is the number of workers hired by a firm. Q is the output, right, how much they produce. 2 points on the firm's production function are 12,122 and 13,130. So what is the marginal product of the 30th worker? 13th hard worker. Think of it this way. If I hire 12 people, I produce 122. If I hire 13 people, I produce 130 in total. So it's 8, right? That the next person gave me an additional output of 8 units. Alright. So here we have, again, number of workers and the total output given the number of workers. So I need to find the marginal product of each of them. The first one gives me 300, right? Because there's no production at 0. So the first guy gives me 300. The second one? 200. Then 150. And this illustrates the diminishing productivity, diminishing marginal product.
So the more people, the less production you get.
The total production is increasing, right? But the contribution of each additional person is decreasing. Alright? Total is also going up.
Go up.
Yeah, but the marginal is going to be decreasing. And at which number of workers does diminishing marginal product begin? Where does it start going down? Well, at 1 it's actually going up, right? Because it's 0 to 300. 2, yeah. Okay. So we talk about costs in the long run now. If a firm is experiencing economies of scale, then what is true about long run costs? Is average total cost minimized when it's economies of scale? What was the long run? Remember, it was you had a bunch of short run costs, and then the long run was looking like that, right? So which area was, which interval was experiencing economies of scale? The first up to here, then we had constant, and then we had diseconomies. So what's happening in this interval? Is average total cost minimized? No. Is average total cost greater than long run marginal cost? Is it less than long run marginal cost?
It's greater in the short run. No.
Well, it's always going to be true, right? When the marginal is lower than the average is going to be decreasing. Right? Well, the key idea here is that we know the average total cost is decreasing, right? And we also know that that happens when marginal is below average, right? When that extra guy that's taking the exam gets a 60 and it drives the average down, right? Does that make sense? Okay. So the average would be above the marginal. Alright, then economies of scale occur when? Sorry? Economies of scale. Which interval is that again? No, it's the same one.
Just
Questions about economies, both questions are about economies of scale. So we're still here. What's going on here? Yep,
The cost decreases.
the cost is falling, right? Long run average total cost falls as output increases. Basically means as we move as we increase output, the average total cost falls. And what happens when you have constant returns to scale? It's staying the same, and when you have diseconomies of scale, what happens with long run average total cost? Increases with output. Okay. Alright, so we have different short-term costs and a long-run curve as well. Refer to the figure. So in this scenario, which of the curves is most likely to characterize the short-run average total cost curve of the smallest factory? Right, if you think of those as factory sizes, like the short-run ones, as different factory sizes that you're stuck in the short run with, but you can choose where to be on the long run. Which one is going to be the relevant curve for the smallest factory? And the curves are A, B, C, and the D is the big one. So which one? What does small factory imply? Can you produce a lot there? Can you produce not that much? So which one corresponds to that? Remember, this is quantity, right? A, right? This one, the first one. Okay. Which curve represents the long run average total cost? D. In the long run, the firm can operate on, on which of the following average total cost curves? So in the long run, where can they be? At A, B, C, or all of the above? All of the above, right? Because in the long run, they can change the factory size easily. The firm experiences economies of scale at which output levels? And that's, which interval is the first one? So from 0 to M, economies of scale. From M to N, constant returns to scale. And N to infinity, diseconomies of scale. So its output levels less than M. Alright. So here we're given the long run total costs for 3 different firms, right? A, B, and C, and a different quantity were given their total cost. Referring to the table, can you tell me which firm is experiencing diseconomies of scale? Why?
Because the total cost is increasing, the output is also increasing.
And what's the definition of diseconomies of scale? What happens in that region? As output goes up, what goes up? Which cost? Right? Make a distinction. This is total, right? That's why it's italicized and underlined. It's total cost. And what do we need to know in order to determine whether it's constant economies or diseconomies? What do those curves represent? What kind of cost? Here. Average total cost, right? All of those are about average total costs. So first step is find the average total cost of each of the firms. Right? So just take the total cost and divide it by the quantity of each quantity for each firm. Right? So this is 100, this is 50, this is 33, this is 25, and this is 20. So what kind of firm is that? What is that firm experiencing? Economies of scale, right? Because as quantity goes up, average total is going down. Right? Then the next one, what is that? 100, 100, 100, 100. So it is experiencing constant returns to scale. And now C is 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. So you're right, but for the wrong reason. Right? So we have to look at the average total cost, and if it's increasing with quantity, then we have diseconomies of scale. Which one is experiencing constant returns to scale? B only. There. B only. Alright, so we have a couple of questions. If the marginal cost of producing the 10th unit of output is 3, and if the average total cost of that 10th unit of output is 2, then at 10 units of output, average total cost is rising. Do we agree? No? Why not? What is this now? It says marginal cost is 3 and average is 2. So what's happening to average in that region? Is it rising or is it falling? There it is, right? That's the picture. Let's look at it here. A marginal is 3, average is 2. Where are we? This is marginal, right? This is the average total. Are we to the left of marginal or to the right of marginal? When marginal is 3 and average is 2. Here it is, right? That's 3. And that's 2. So we're on this side. And what's happening on this side? With average total cost. Is it increasing? Or decreasing? Increasing. Right? It's going up with output. Right? This is the marginal one is the extra guy taking the exam. He's getting a 90 now, right? The average is 80, but he's getting a 90. So it goes up.
Where's $3 and $2? Like,
It's not on the same graph. I'm just using the curves. It's not graphed. It just. All right. Suppose the marginal cost for a firm is given by that equation, and fixed costs are 50. What is the total cost? Now we can do this in two ways. Alright. First thing, I said that marginal cost is the first derivative of total cost. Right? So if I have marginal cost, how can I find total? By taking the integral of that. Alright? Are you guys familiar with how to do this? Have you studied it? No? You're studying it right now. But alright, I'll just show you. So the derivative of 4 plus 2q with respect to q is, when you have just 4, just imagine just taking the derivative of something and arriving at this. Right? So if I take the derivative of something and I get 4, then I must have had 4q here. Right? 4q, the first derivative of that is just 4, which is here. And if I take the derivative in order to get 2q, I need to have q squared. Right? Then I take the derivative of q squared, I get 2q. Now it's there's also going to be a constant here, because if I have a constant here and take the derivative of that, it's just 0, so it's not going to show up here. So I'm going to have a certain constant there, and that will be my total cost function. So what is the constant going to be? I'm giving information here about that. The fixed cost, right? Because the fixed cost is the amount of money you pay when q is 0. So when both of these are 0, the only thing you pay is the fixed, and fixed is 50. So then total cost is 50 plus 4q plus q squared. In addition to that, what you can do, where's marginal? 4 plus.
Where did we get 50 from? It's from a previous.
From here.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Okay, so marginal cost has this equation, so I can graph it here, right? It's 4 plus 2q. So it's a function of q, and the slope here is going to be 2. I know that total cost is going to be the area below the marginal cost, but above the x-axis, right? That's the idea of integral. So it's going to be here. Like the area below the marginal cost is going to be my total cost. So I can come up with an equation just by finding that area. Right? So let's say here I have q, then what am I going to have here? A 4 plus 2q, right? That's already 4. This is 4 plus 2q. There you go. Alright, I know this point, I know how much this is, because I know the relationship between q and marginal cost. Okay, if I have q here, then I have 4 plus 2q there, because that's my marginal cost. That's what it gives me. Okay. So I know that this side is going to be, this side is going to be 4 plus 2q. Right? This here I know is 4, because that's the intercept. This small part here. And this is q. True? Agree? Alright, then I have, to find this area, this is a trapezoid, so it's a plus b divided by 2 times h. So it's going to be one side, which is 4 plus 2q, plus the other side, which is just 4, divided by 2, and the whole thing times q. Right? Because this is the height of the trapezoid. And then what is this? 4 plus q times q. It is 4q plus q squared. And then the fixed cost. And then I get my total cost. Right? Add the fixed cost to it. This is basically going to be the variable cost at each quantity. So to get the total, I'm going to add 50 plus that gives me exactly the same equation as we did before.
We can use like either that or.
If you know how to apply the integral, then that's fine. Alright. There's one last question here. What are the firm's fixed costs? And we only have the graph. Okay, in the graph I have average variable, average total, and marginal. So what's one way to find it? We did this before. How can I easily find fixed cost if I have average total and average variable?
They don't know.
No, but we know what we know about total cost is fixed plus variable. So fixed would be total minus variable. But I have average total and average variable, so I need to find them first. Okay? So basically, looking at the graph, you just pick pick a quantity, right, that you can easily read. Let's say 10. Seems okay. Or something else.
6 and 7.
I'm trying to see which ones are like nicely put. But it doesn't matter what you pick, it's gonna pretty much be the same. So if I pick 10, I know that average variable cost at a quantity of 10 is 42, let's say, right? So average variable cost at 10 is 42. And average total at 10 is 54, let's say. Right? Average total cost at 10 is 54. So what is average fixed cost at 10?
96.
Average fixed. I know the total is 54 and the variable is 42. So it's fixed is 12. So the average fixed cost of the quantity of 10 is 12. So what is fixed cost? 120. Right? You could have done this with any quantity. You just have to read the average variable and average total of that quantity.
So we just pick any point.
Well, you can pick any point that you can nicely read.
Mhm.
If this 6 is okay here, I guess this is about 31, and this is 50 something, 52, right? But then you're gonna multiply by 6 instead of by 2. Alright guys, you have any other questions?